This is AI.R. Artists in Residence Broadcasting, coming to you once a week from New York City.
Hello, I'm John Cullum, and this is Emily Frankel, my wife, and we're going to tell you, what are we going to
discuss a topic that you will really enjoy discussing.
Oh, really?
I want to revisit why it is that you really love Richard Burton. And the reason why I'm bringing it up is because we happened to see Who's Afraid of Virginia Woolf the other night with the Richard Elizabeth, a terrifying, wonderful performance.
Yeah. The best performance I've ever seen Richard give on the screen.
But his performance was remarkable.
Yes, it
An
was.
ugly character, and what he did with it, how he made it sympathetic without in any way softening the character, was remarkable.
Yeah.
And I wanted you to tell us what it was. Like, for instance, Richard was here in our studio while I was out of town. You and Richard would come here and you'd frolic around. What did you do? Did you play scenes? Did you joke? Did you go into the studio and play parts? Did you talk
There was
art?
usually a party, more than just Richard, but it was extraordinary to have Richard Burton in our apartment, and mostly it was drinking and singing and telling stories or whatever.
But why did you love Richard?
Well, Richard was, first of all, he was one of the most exciting persons to be around that I've ever met. He was the center of attention always, and if he wasn't, he'd leave or he would disappear. But he never disappeared hardly, because everybody was always delighted to be around Richard. He made things happen, and he was one of the most. The thing a lot of people don't understand about Richard Burton, because he doesn't necessarily show in the work. He was an intellect. He loved to read.
He was a poet.
Yes, and he was a wonderful writer, and he read profusely whenever he wasn't working. He
Or playing with women.
Yes, but and most of the time, particularly in his early part of his life, he didn't drink when he wasn't working. When he was reading or by himself, he didn't have to drink very much, but he drank all the time when he was working. And there was two sides to Richard, and there were two ways that I felt about him. For one thing, Richard almost broke my heart and almost made me turn against him when, in a private conversation with me, he told me that he did not think acting was a worthwhile occupation. And I said, that's terrible. I mean, look how many people know you and are so impressed with your abilities as an actor, and you can say something like that. And I held it against him for a long time, and it wasn't actually until after he died that I began to think about it, that Richard did what he wanted to do with his career. He was an Olympian type of person. He held forth on the world stage. There was a time when you couldn't pick up a newspaper that you didn't see Richard and Elizabeth's name in a newspaper any place in any country all over the world. And I knew him at that time, and I worked with him. And did not have the respect for him as an actor that I should have. Although I knew that he could do anything as an actor, he didn't always do that. And then,
You think if you were alive, you'd still be friends with him?
yes, I think so too. Yes, and I miss him. I miss him. I miss his presence, because
He brought an excitement to our lives.
yes, well, yes, everybody around Richard was reflected in his glory, and that's
Oh, that's lovely.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, I think that's the phrase that we have to finish with.
All right, that's good enough for me.
But John, he was, in that movie that we saw, so simple and so powerful.
Yes.
What was that phrase you just used?
Everybody that associated with Richard were reflected in his glory.
That's what I saw with that movie.
Yes.
Thank you, John.
Oh, you're welcome, Emily. Thank you for bringing it up. And we'll see you next week.
This is AI.R. See you next week.